Is it a Neve 1081? Is it a Quad 8 EQ? I'm not exactly sure. But today we're going to find out because I am trying the new MIAD EQ LCPQ4040 and I can't yet figure out what exactly this thing is supposed to be. Because if I look at the frequencies we get with each band on this EQ, it looks very similar to the frequencies you get on the Neve 1081. But then if I look at the yellow knobs over here, it very much resembles a Quad 8 EQ444. So I think there's one thing left to do in figuring out what this thing is, and that is having a listen. Wow, that actually sounded better than I expected. The low end is nice and beefy, the high end is silky smooth, and the mid-range is really nice. MIAD Audio is a new boutique audio company that's based in Poland and makes a very high-end analog gear like the LCPQ4040 Mark II that we are diving into today. This is a 4-band solid-state EQ with an input and an output transformer for extra analog vibe, and it has a couple of extra tricks up its sleeve, but I think I'll get to those later. In my setup over here, the Neve 1073 is my go-to EQ, so I'm very curious how the LCPQ4040 sounds different from the 1073. Now, as I mentioned, it shares a lot of the frequencies with the Neve 1081, which is the Neve 1073's bigger brother, but unfortunately, I do not own a pair of 1081s. So I guess the 1073s will have to do. Maybe in the future, if I can get my hands on a pair of 1081s, we'll do a shootout with the 1081s. Let me know down in the comments if you would like me to do that. If we go over the unit over here, you can see that we've got a frequency selector on the low band and then a level selector on the low band, and that basically repeats 4 times for every band. Then on the low end and the high end, you've got a switch that's labeled bell, and that switch it over from a shelf to a bell. And then on the mid-range bands, that knob switches between a low and a high Q, but they can also do something else, which I will get back to later. Sorry, I'm building suspense in this video. Let's compare the Neve 1073 to the LCPQ4040. Now I've got my Neve 1073 set up as I normally would when processing a lead vocal. And even though we don't have the exact same frequency bands on the MIAD EQ, I will try to get as close as possible. The high shelf on the 1073 is 12K, so if I can choose between 10 and 15, I think we're going to stay on 10. We are definitely switching it over to a shelf. And then we've got 3.3K instead of the 3.2 on the Neve 1073. We are not doing anything with this mid-range band, so that can just switch to off. The low end will just bump up a little bit. Let's have a listen to the difference between those two units.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
I think we can push it a little bit further on the MIAD EQ because I'm hearing a little bit more high end and high mids through the Neve 1073s.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do. when I close my eyes. When I close my eyes, I still see you.
Okay, I'm yet again very impressed. I think when we listen to the Neve 1073, it's kind of screamy and it's very mid-range heavy, and it's a bit too much for this type of vocal. And the MIAD EQ is very nice and gentle and warm, and yes, I'm pushing a little bit more low end, so I'm sorry for not exactly matching them. But overall, I'm just hearing that it's a gentler EQ, and it made the vocal a lot nicer, and the high end is smoother, and wow, this might be my new favorite vocal EQ actually. On the right side of these EQs, you find these in switches. Those are true bypass switches, which means it bypasses all the EQ circuitry, so the input of the MIAD EQ is directly fed into the output. But then on top of that, on each frequency selector of every band, you get the frequencies and there is an off setting. With that, you can do something really useful. Because if we look at the graph over here in the manual, you can see that you can bypass every individual EQ band, but still go through the input transformers. So if we set every single band to the off position, we are going through the input and the output transformers, but we are not using the EQ. Now, by using these true bypass switches, we can actually switch in the input and output transformer. So let's have a listen to how it sounds if we just run through those transformers without even using the EQ.
And dreaming of the withdrawals, and dreaming of my failures. I'm looking for a light bulb, but I'm falling out of favor, and I don't mean to let you down.
Okay, so the difference isn't night and day, but it is a really cool feature because sometimes you just want to add a little bit of analog flavor, and this just adds a little bit of warmth to this track. And sometimes that is the only thing you need from the analog domain. If you want to see how this track was recorded, make sure you hit the join button down below because that will bring you to the virtual internship. There you will find mix breakdowns, recording walkthroughs, and you'll be able to join an exclusive WhatsApp group with all the virtual interns, my team members, and of course myself as well. So I'll see you there. Okay, so for the magic trick of this EQ that I so amazingly teased to you, we actually need to do a little bit of surgery to the MIAD EQ. So let's get it out of the rack and open it up. All this shit, man. Ugh. Why is there so much stuff? Okay, so if we look underneath, we can see that there's a separate power supply over here. So we need to switch that off. Those two cables run into the MIAD EQs over here. So yes, you run two of these EQs with one power supply. You can also run one of these with one power supply, of course. So the XLRs can go out, and then we can take this unit out of the rack. And then we can have a look inside of this unit. Looks great, but I have no clue if it's like higher quality components than anything else. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that right now. If you look closely over here, you see those jumpers and they say 6 and 12. They're now on 12, which means the range on these knobs is 12 dB. Now, by switching these over, which should be super simple. Okay, can I see it? Yeah. 2, 6. Now this band should be set to 6 dB up and 6 dB down. And of course, you do that for the other bands as well. And let's set them all to 6. I'll just put it on the lid with a couple of screws. Okay. That can go in. Put these on a safe spot. Sometimes I really wish I lived in America where everything is big. Wait, I need to plug in power and audio, of course. Power and audio. Okay, so let's mess around with it. Now the top unit is set to plus or minus 6 dB on each band, and the bottom unit is set to plus or minus 12 dB on each band.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody.
And if we look at that range on the other EQ,
'Cause when I close my eyes,
very dark.
I see us together for a whole lifetime. And
Switch.
suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do when I close my eyes.
So there's definitely a big difference between the 6 dB and the 12 dB. Okay, so let's try.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
It's a big range.
And suddenly forever feels too short.
Okay, let's check the 6 dB on that frequency.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody.
So as you can hear, on the 6 dB version, you now get a lot more control because the 15 steps over here are now 0.4 dB each, where on the 12 dB version, every step is 0.8 dB. So yes, you can color more with the 12 dB version, but you have less control. So for mixing, I think I would set it up as the 12 dB version, but then for mastering, I might want to go for the 6 dB. But it has an additional trick up its sleeve, which might come in handy for what I wanted to do. And for that, I want to take you with me to the manual, because it says here, on band 2 and band 3, it is also possible to switch the level range between plus and minus 6 dB to the 12 dB by using the high Q button over here. So that means that on the two mid bands, you can actually switch them between 6 and 12 dB of range with the Q switch over here, which might actually be very, very useful in my case. So I think I might go for that. All in all, I think I'm very happy I decided to try these units, and there might be a good chance that I'm actually adding them to my setup. Let me know down below in the comments if I should keep these EQs in my setup and how you would configure them. Would you go for the high Q, low Q switch, or would you switch between the 6 dB and the 12 dB? Would you set them to 6 dB? Would you set them to 12 dB altogether? There's loads of different possibilities, so let me know down below what you would do in my situation. And let me also know if you think I should add these to my setup or keep looking for something else. And while you're at it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the description, because there you'll find affiliate links and discounts. See you on another video. Later!